How did you go last night?
I didn't sleep well, but you know, I think, as you said, it'll take time. So I guess I'm so tired at night that it's hard for me to. I should go through the body scan and everything, but I'm tired and I assume that I'll fall asleep, and then I don't, and then yeah. So I guess I need a different routine, maybe.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to it because hello Nuala. Hi. Um, because the mind has got a lot to do with it, and there's a lot to do with self-talk as well. Like there's I guess even though it's 5 days, it's really just an introduction to give you the
Sure.
basics and to get you an idea where we're aiming at with the
Yeah.
whole idea of with the delta, um, and then we offer different programs at the end of it because basically sometimes it needs one-to-one work really where and,
Sure.
and that would be where I'd be getting you to fill in the journal every day. I know it might be a bit of a bore, but there are so many factors involved that if you're writing down the little codes um, every day in terms of how you're feeling, what you're thinking about, was there anything disturbing that happened during the day? What sort of what are you saying to yourself all the time? There are self-talk. There are beliefs that you hold, and sometimes we need time just on a one-to-one basis to get behind it. We'll talk about it on the third or fourth day. I call it an onion. Basically, you've got to keep peeling the onion skins off to try and find what's actually in the center of it. And a lot of times you just don't think about it really because you're thinking on a practical level most of the time. But there are certain drivers that are behind it, so we might have to get to those as well
Sure.
to
Yeah.
unlock the problem and to discover the problem, then to work on it. Sometimes it's just a matter of actually working together on it to find where the actual beliefs of the problems are, and then once they're actually discovered, sometimes that's just enough to dissolve them, which is just amazing when that happens.
Mm.
Um, we'll go into it properly on another day as well. But hello, Tracy. We've got Tracy on, and so I think
Hello, Charles.
it's a couple of minutes past 10, so maybe we'll start with the program and we'll talk more about it as in the beginning of the session. So welcome everybody. It's day 2 of the speed sleeping course. Now I'm still learning about how to make Zoom conferences as opposed to just being a participant. Right, well, we've got the chat so that anytime you want to ask a question, you can ask it privately to me, or you can share it with the group. So you've got a choice of everyone or directly to myself on the left-hand side, or wherever you open your chat. The course every day will be running from the same time. From 10 to 11, we do mostly theory, and then from 11 to 12, we do as much practice as we can. The change to the program a little bit is maybe 5 minutes to 11 to 5 past 11. We'll have a little break because I think we just need one. And just to remind people that have come on yesterday, but for anyone that's new today, if you complete the course, the 5 days, and for the people that I think Nuala can't always do the whole session because of timing, and that's fine because Meg will send the recording so you can keep up with us. So for everyone that completes it either live or with the recording, we'll offer you a special gift on the completion on the 5 days, which is actually the sleep journal. But I think at this stage it'll probably be something you might have to print off and fill in. And we will offer a 1 hour Zoom call on that, which we will also record, on how to use the sleep journal. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is a valuable, really something valuable, because we always think of ourselves as the universe. We're always the center of the universe. So we see everything from the center, which we think is us, around. But by writing things down in the journal, you might come to a realization that it's something that's pretty obvious that you haven't seen before, because you just normally just live through the day like everyone just lives through the day. And then you find by writing in the sleep journal, you might discover something that is a block that you can handle yourself without any extra help, and which is fantastic. So I recommend everyone grab one at the end. So let's move on. So it seems obvious because we've already spoken about it all the time, as delta, but probably before the course, or before, it's the same with me. Before I knew what delta was, I didn't know. and it's the same as saying, you want to go on a holiday, but you don't know where you're going. So how can you go on a holiday if you don't know where you're going? It's sort of similar to sleep. Everyone says, I want to have a good sleep. But if you don't actually know where you're headed, or what's the point of sleep, or what you want to actually achieve, to get what's the target of sleeping, then it's very easy just to complain about not having a good sleep and not knowing why. You see, I saw that a few people have picked up the book, which is great. It goes into a lot more detail, and there's a lot of checklists that will that you can go through. Even if 90% of the book is not relevant to you, it's just maybe the 1 or the 2% of the book that is all you need. It's just a matter of going through it and seeing if you can discover what the golden nugget is that can help you. So what I found is delta is what we should be aiming at. And the aim of this slide, as we said before, is if we know that our aim is to get as much delta as we can during our sleep, then let's discover all the blocks that are not allowing us to get into the greatest amount of good quality delta. Only for people that want to share. So don't worry, I'm not going to point you out like an old-fashioned Victorian school teacher saying, okay, you're next, sort of thing, because that stresses people out. I think 2 people left the program yesterday because we thought maybe they were thinking they were going to be picked out, so they decided to leave before I was going to pick them out. But no, if you want to share, you're welcome to. If you don't want to share, then that's perfectly fine. Either way, everything's fine. So the question is, would anyone like to share? Just put your hand up and unmute yourself. And okay, Vera. So Vera, I think what I can do is I can unmute you as well, maybe. How do I do that? Oh, you're unmuted. Can you say something, Vera?
Yeah, so I didn't sleep well. I think there were different factors. It was really hot. My room is under the roof. So that's kind of the sleep hygiene you mentioned. Yeah, it was hot. And then my mind was racing for no reason, no special reason, but I just couldn't stop the noise in my mind. It felt really tight around my eyes. And I, I still slept on and off a bit, so it was not a terrible night, but I guess only a few hours here and there. So, yeah.
Well, Yvonne, thanks for sharing that with us all. Firstly, yes, it could be as simple as the heat factor, you know. And I think today we'll be talking about the temperature. What's the ideal temperature? It's a suggested range, but it's definitely something, as I would say, the temperature is definitely a block. Okay, so even if you can concentrate on managing or handling or removing one block every day or once a week at least, then you're making progress. Okay, it's important not to feel that you've got to get instant success after one session, if you know what I mean.
True.
Just, in other words, just chip away at it, just work away at it in a methodical way, and just be patient. So one thing definitely is look after the temperature. Maybe change the room, or you might need to get some curtains or get some air ventilation, or just start sorting out temperature. Just use that as the one factor. When it comes to your busy mind, there's a chance that we might be able to help you with that, because we've got an album called the Orange Grove Siesta album, and that is for, mainly we find that women that have got busy minds love that album, and it's got to do with how the music can distract you away from your thoughts. If you're physically tired, as you say you are, then basically the way it seems to work is, if you look at my hand and at the high level, it's the high frequencies like beta, and then we drop down to alpha, then theta and delta, which we went into yesterday. Your mind is racing, and your brainwaves would probably be in a beta brainwave state. The problem is that your body is really exhausted and it's desperate for sleep, but the mind is acting very fast. So with quick thinking, the hormones in the body are not conducive for sleep. So we've got to switch those hormones to melatonin as opposed to adrenaline hormones.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do this with our mind, okay? An example that I give in the book, just to prove that everybody can do this anytime they want to, just as long as you discover where the steering wheel is and the dials and the pedals in your car, then you can drive your car. If you get into your car and you don't have a steering wheel and you don't have a brake and you don't know where anything is, then how can you drive the car? I mean, sure, with Elon Musk and the new electric cars that he's inventing for the future, it'll probably be that you just sit in the car and the car will remember what you want to do and read your mind and take you there. But until that happens, it's good for you to know what controls you've got over your own body and your mind. And a good example is, let me say, I take you into a room, okay, and there's no windows, and there's just there's just walls everywhere, and nobody touches you, okay, but within minutes your heart races, your blood pressure goes up, and your hands start to sweat, and you go into a beta brainwave state, and you're totally anxious. So where are you? What is the room that you're in that makes you do this? Can you guess? Put your hand up if you want to know the answer. Anybody? Okay. It's a cinema. You're in a cinema. A cinema is it's obvious. You know, you're sitting down. All you're doing is looking with your eyes. You're listening with your ears, and your brain is thinking different thoughts because of the visions that you're seeing. And all of a sudden, just because of that, you're changing your hormones in your body and your brain waves. Okay? So what I'm saying to you is, if a cinema can do that to you and your body and your physiology, then you have just discovered that you've got controls over your own mind and your own body to do the same thing for yourself. Okay?
Yeah.
It's very important to understand how much control you've got over your own mind and your own body. And just a thought, choosing a thought, can either make you happy, make you relaxed. A thought can change your body chemistry, just like a tablet, just like a psychological drug can change the body chemistry. Your thoughts can also change your body chemistry. The biggest thing that the doctors and the Western medicine and the pharmaceutical industry does not want to actually advertise is that 50% of the time placebo works. It works.
Yeah.
Some doctors give sugar tablets and say, take this, you'll be better in 5 days. And what they're giving you is a sugar tablet because they know that placebo works. Okay? So perhaps with Vero, if you start realizing that your mind can sort out your problem, okay? All you have to do is start believing that fact, okay? Now, and just keep repeating that you've got that control. And by having that control, you're on your path. In other words, by doing that, you're in the racing car and you're on the racing track and you're pointed towards Delta, okay? And now what you're thinking is, where are the blocks? Because I'm going to get rid of those blocks. You see? It's a totally different way of thinking, okay?
Mm.
Unfortunately, a lot of the doctors, or most of the doctors, or all the doctors that are paid by NHS, God bless them, they've only got 5 or 10 minutes. They're on the clock.
Mm.
They've got to talk to you. They've got to understand what your problem is. They've got to prescribe to you, and they've got to get you out the door in 10 minutes. Right? So what can they do in 10 minutes? Seriously.
Mm.
And the easiest thing to do is to prescribe sleeping tablets. Easiest thing in the world to do. And unfortunately, but it was very nice that Matthew Leadham, he's the pharmacist that wrote in the sleep book. You'll see that he's written a chapter in the book, a few pages at least in the book. He was honest enough to tell me that sleeping tablets are just hypnotics, okay? And they were supposed to only be meant for 2 weeks. And some people are on them for decades. Anyway, Meg's waving. I should get on to the next slide. So does anyone else want to share with us, how did you sleep last night? Oh, Nuala, please, how do you unmute? Do I unmute you? Or?
I think I have it there now.
Yep. Oh, you're mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning, everybody, and apologies. My timing was off yesterday, so I could only join you for a little bit, but I'm hoping to stick with you for the day today. I always was a great sleeper, but I suppose in my late 50s now, things have started to change. And 2 months ago, I had a hip replacement, and they gave me sleeping tablets in the hospital when the pain was severe and stuff. But you know, I slept in the hospital without paying sleeping tablets as well. So, and when I came back to Ireland, because I had it done in Germany, I slept perfect for a week. I think I was so glad to get back to my own bed and my lovely new mattress. And but the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks now have been torture, and you know, seeing the clock every hour or every half hour, you look and think, oh no, I didn't drift off, or you know, the way you'd be hoping, oh, maybe it's 2 hours later since I last looked at it. I've been trying, you know, no coffee after 2 o'clock, reading, no bright lights, doing some qigong, tapping, calming the body down, reading, you know, all the things you're told to do. And last night, after you'd sent the link about the summer, is it the summer Maybe I haven't the right. So I listened to 4, maybe 5 hours of that, and I did drift off.
Good.
So yeah, I did a couple of them twice, and yeah, so thankfully I got some sleep last night.
Well,
But
you're
no,
smiling, which
sometimes,
is a good start.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes, you know, if you get more than an hour, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And I always find it's like 5:30, 6, I'll drift off when I have to be getting up at, you know, 8 o'clock. So, and then you're inclined to say, oh, will I stay another hour? I might just drift in and out. But as I said, I'm so conscious of not having the healing sleep, especially with my hip. And that's why I was so interested in the Delta and, you know, hearing another perspective on it. I've been kind of studying Chinese Qigong and stuff, and they talk about the healing. You know, it's so important to get your rest for the healing. And yeah, so I'm really glad to be joining you all here to learn some more.
It sounds like you're making progress, which is fantastic, Norma. That's really good. And
I did take sleeping tablets from my GP, and like I'd take them for one night. Again, it's this thing, you don't want to get hooked. And you know, so then I thought, okay, you know, I'd taken maybe 2 nights in a row, and then I'd try and sleep, and I'd give it a few days and it wouldn't work. And so then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I took it 3 nights. I said, well, no, they say learning a habit comes in 3s, but maybe 3 days isn't enough, or 3 nights. So so Sunday night I had an awful night. I'd say if I got half an hour, so which was another reason I was a bit off kilter yesterday. I suppose lack of sleep doesn't help the brain.
Well, what I've read is that it's more like 21 days to form a habit, not 3.
3 weeks, so maybe.
Yeah, it's more like 3 weeks, and it's every day consistent. Like if there's a 1-day break, you have to start the 21 days again. Okay. So yeah, it's got to be 21 consistent days, and that's when you can change your habit. That's what's said anyway. And we did a test with. It's interesting. We had there was a lot of people that were coming up some people coming up from time to time at the Mind Body Spirit festivals that I was exhibiting at years ago, and they would ask me, listen, if I listen to your music enough, will I be able to carry on without your music? Or do I have to listen to your music for the rest of my life? And I said to them, well, I've designed the music so that it will never, so that it's hard to get bored listening to it, right? But if you find out the answer, could you please come back and tell me so I can share with everyone else? Because I'd love to know as well. If you have to use it all the time, or you can actually wean yourself off John Levine's alpha music and just be different. So a young girl came up to me, a young teenager, and she was using Silence of Peace Volume 1 for her study because it's absolutely brilliant for study. That's the music that I'm playing in the background whilst I'm talking. And she said something very funny happened to her because she's got a little cage of mice that is in the back of her room. And every time she plays Silence of Peace for her study, the mice start to calm down, relax, and they don't fight. Okay, so they're calm, chilled out mice. Okay, but she found after about a month of playing the music that even with the music not on, the mice were completely chilled. And so in other words, their behavior changed thanks to the music after a month. So without the music, their behavior changed, which is interesting. So Nuala, thank you for sharing. With the Qigong, they talk about healing. The connecting of the dots is that when they're talking about getting into the zone where the sleep can do the healing for you, that's obviously the delta state. So that's what we need to aim at, is more of the delta. I've got a feeling that last night you actually did enter delta a few times, because the way you're looking and the way you're talking looks like you've actually had some moments of rest and relaxation and small amounts of quality sleep off the Delta. I just have that feeling about you, the way you're talking and the way you're looking. So we've aimed to get more of that, and still with your blocks, what you're saying, you've ticked off a few blocks that don't seem to be relevant to you. Still keep looking, because there are still probably other blocks there. Well, there are definitely other blocks there. It's just a matter of discovering them. So it's like digging for gold. If you see a little crack of gold, you keep digging until you can find more. So you're on the right track. Just keep digging to find more of those blocks, and then tackle them one way or the other. Dissolve them, break them apart, or vanish them, throw them into space, whatever you want. But the aim is to get rid of all the blocks so that you've got absolute control over the quality of your sleep. Mick says that Brett waved his hand after Nuala. So, Brett, would you like to unmute yourself?
Thank you, John. Well, I'm grateful for my sleep I had last night, and actually normally I fall asleep quite quickly and I have a good night's sleep. But why I'm interested is that I often don't feel rested. I wake up after a good night's sleep and I'm often quite tired still. So I'm here to learn more.
Okay. So you do. How much sleep do you get a night?
I get up early in the morning. I get up at 5 in the morning, but I usually get about 6 hours sleep from 11 till 5.
Okay. And you feel that you're not rested after you wake up?
I feel I'm not always rested after I wake up. When I occasionally sleep through without an alarm and I wake up at about 7 o'clock, I feel more rested. But with the routine that I work to is I get up at 5, so I've got time for meditation in the morning.
Do you fall asleep when you meditate?
If I don't use a prayer seat, the prayer seat where you're on your knees, if I don't use that, I do fall asleep in meditation, and it's a bit embarrassing.
Embarrassing because you meditate with other people?
When I do meditate with other people, yes. They might notice the snore.
Join the club.
I've explained it's my new mantra.
We can meditate together and we'll both snore together. And can I tell you something? I feel guilty too when I'm in meditation groups and I start to snore. But it's pretty obvious to me, right?
Yeah.
Your cycle finishes at 7 a.m.
Ah.
It's very simple. You've got the circadian rhythms. Now, if you're in a deep sleep, right? Mm. And the alarm clock wakes you up right in the middle of a deep sleep, right?
Yes.
It forces your brain waves to go up rapidly, up to beta.
Yes.
Okay? And when that happens, your whole body and your nervous system gets jarred. You know the expression, oh, what's the matter with you? Did you fall out of bed the wrong way? Or did you get, you know that expression?
Yes.
Well,
got out of bed on the wrong side, yeah.
That's what's happening to you every morning at 5 a.m.
Ah.
Okay? So my suggestion would be, if you need those 2 hours sleep, go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Then when you wake up at 5, it should be the same as you waking up at 7.
Now that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you then, at 5 o'clock, if you go and meditate, you won't be snoring in your meditation class.
Thank you,
But
John.
but if you can't do it that way, if you have to go to sleep at 11 and have to wake up at 5, then I will write a note from John Levine to Brett that you are allowed to snore in your meditation classes. Now, I will explain to you. It's funny, it's a joke, but it's true. Okay. Now, when I was taught transcendental meditation, they said if you're in a deep delta state or in a meditation state, you must make sure nobody disturbs you. No alarm bells, no one mentions your name, no one touches you. But if you're disturbed and you wake up suddenly, your nerves get shattered. So what they say is, as soon as possible, go back into meditation, go back into a sleep, okay, and then allow yourself to gently wake up again. So go down and then go up gently, without any alarm, without anyone pushing or shoving you. And then you should be able to center yourself okay for the rest of the day. So hopefully I've given you a few ideas.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
And let me know how it goes tomorrow. Right. I think we're okay now with the sharing. We'll move on. Yep. Okay. So we talked about the blocks. Our aim is to have fun discovering what the blocks are. And if you look at a block and go, oh, that's not me because I've sorted that out. I don't have coffee until I only have the coffee in the morning and I go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night or something. Maybe discount that block and move on to the next one. Keep looking and looking for the blocks until we can remove all the blocks. Okay. So if you want to write these down, we can go. We just list them very quickly. Obviously, there's a lot more in the book, which a lot of you have. Right. Nuala's talking about that her mother was a nurse, and said an hour before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight. Yes. Well, I guess if everyone has similar circadian rhythms, where I guess the idea is to sleep at night when it's dark and to be awake during the daytime, then it's good to go to sleep when it becomes dark, which is more than midnight. It usually dark for most of the world is quite a few hours before midnight. Before Thomas Edison discovered the light bulb, most of the people in the world used to go to sleep when it was nighttime, and they used to wake up when it was light. But now with the light bulb, we can work and stay awake anytime we like because we can keep working if we want to, or keep watching TV. So yes, the whole idea is that if everyone's waking up around about the same time every morning, then any extra hours before midnight for sleep is much better than after midnight. So I get what you mean. So if we just go through that list, there might be something on this list that might be something that you can look at. And in terms of your homework for tonight, have a look at any of these things, because there could be a block here that you might not have thought of before. You might have discounted, or you might have thought, oh, well, that's normal, so I won't think of that. But it could be pets wanting to come and sleep with you. Or it could be someone putting on a drying machine or a washing machine in the next door or upstairs or downstairs that vibrates, that could disturb you. So just as far as timing goes, we'll move on. Just one question for any of you. Is there anything on this list that do you see as a block for yourself? If you see any relevant blocks on this list, can you put your hand up just to share, if you'd like to? Vera, can you unmute yourself, Vera, or do I have to unmute you?
Yeah, I mean, I found many on the list that that are blocks, like stress, anxiety, grief, worries. I have my cancer came back, so I'm struggling dealing with accepting that. It's yeah, so I have that. But even before the secondary cancer, I had trouble sleeping, so that's not the only reason.
Right. So, well, it's good to identify them and work through them.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to grief and stress and anxiety, it takes more work because obviously it's a matter of what's behind it, what are the thoughts behind that, and that takes more time to go through step by step because with each peel of the onion that you take off, you discover another layer, and the idea is to keep going down until you can find the core of what is actually causing the grief or the stress. Okay, there's an album called Silence of Heart that I say I composed, but I didn't actually compose any of my music. It was channeled from somewhere else, and for one person that I was working with, we discovered that what was stopping her sleep was not her busy mind or not stress or anxiety. It was actually grieving that was holding her back. And we discovered that on some level, she wanted to hold on to the grief, even though it wasn't very helpful to her mind and the body. It wasn't very healthy to hold on to the grief. She wanted to hold on to the memory of her friend that died. She didn't want her friend to leave her.
Mm.
So the best way to hold on to her friend was to keep grieving. And that constant feeling of grief was upsetting her whole system, mentally, emotionally, physically. But she didn't want to let go of her friend. So the Silence of Heart album helped her. I can only lightly explain how it works, but maybe we'll hold that back for later in the course. Thank you for sharing, Vera. That was great. We'll move on. So it's easy to feel overwhelmed at most everything that happens in life nowadays, and that can easily cause stress and anxiety, which can easily cause us not to sleep. With the busy mind, when you're in a relaxed state, the mind goes into an alpha state, and in alpha, it's a fantastic state to study and concentrate and to remember things. The problem is that if you're lying down and you've gone from a beta state to an alpha state, the aim is to go to delta, okay? Go to theta, dreaming state, then to delta. But a lot of people, when they get into the alpha state, they think, wow, I can think very clearly now. And their thinking becomes faster and faster because you can process a lot of more information when you're in alpha state because it's a good state for studying. So whilst you're lying down relaxed, the alpha state is where what you're taking advantage of, and you start to think about a lot of things. Now, it could easily be like this. You think about something and go, oh no, I forgot to do this. Oh no, what should I buy for my son's birthday present? Or we're going out tomorrow night, or oh, I forgot to pay a bill today. Oh dear. So there's a lot of things that you're checking through, and everything that you didn't do right or that you forgot to do or whatever, that also irritates you as well. So the irritation and the stress can cause the body to can cause the glands to produce adrenaline, and the adrenaline increases the heart rate and the blood pressure and doesn't allow the melatonin to start being produced. It turns off the sleeping hormones, so it pushes you up into a state where you can't get to sleep because of your mind thinking about a whole lot of problems. So if this is the case, then I would say try the Orange Grove Siesta album, and we'll talk more about that later on in the day. Again, for anyone that hasn't taken advantage of the book, we're offering it to the participants of the course at only £3.99. And can I ask Meg if she can put the link to the special offer in the chat, please? We'll move on, but just keep your eye on the chat, and and Meg will put that link as soon as she can. There it is now. Thank you, Meg. Okay, the book goes into a lot more detail. It goes into a lot more detail, and we've got different experts that are talking from different points of view, because not everybody has the same point of view. It's obviously that everyone's different, and everyone likes different types of music. Everyone has a different types of lifestyle and different thoughts. So it's good to get different aspects from different people, different professionals, as to what could be causing those blocks. Right, so just as something quick and simple that can help you with checking off some of the blocks that you might have, we'll go through 10 easy secrets. So you're welcome to take a photograph of the page, or you're welcome to get a pen and paper and write down any ideas that you get from the 10 secrets. So the first one is make sure that you eat earlier on in the day. Try not to eat, well, eat up to 2 hours before bedtime, or even more if you can beforehand, so that you don't have a heavy stomach of food. That could, and also not to eat fatty foods before bedtime, as that can cause digestive upsets. Here we go. Exercise is very good, as long as it's in the earlier part of the day. If you do want to do exercise just before bedtime, then I would suggest something that is really very slow moving. It may be something like Tai Chi, but definitely nothing fast and activity strenuous, because that pumps your heart into a faster rate. And what you want to do is have your heart rate slow down to get ready for bed. Temperature, this is something I think we were just talking with Vera about earlier. The temperature, ideally, for most people, should be between 18 and 22 degrees centigrade. Now, this is also depending on which country you come from, because what we found is that people that have come from Africa, that are native Africans, when they come to England, they find that the room temperatures that seem to be comfortable for normal English Caucasian people is too cold for them, and they need to be warmer. So different nationalities and different people have a different resting state for their temperature. You have to discover what that comfortable temperature is for you, and then perhaps get a thermometer in the room to keep checking to make sure that you do have a temperature gauge to understand how it is. I've got in my room, I've got a digital calendar clock that has got actually a sensor to tell you what the temperature is in the room. It's very helpful because sometimes you might feel cold, but the room feels hot. So it's good to have a thermometer. The obvious thing is stimulants are not very good before bedtime because they're aimed to actually increase adrenaline and get your heart rate up, which is not what you want. The book goes into more detail because there are certain types of foods and drinks besides coffee that can act as a stimulant, and you might not have known that. So, for example, in green tea, there's caffeine, and in normal black tea, there is also caffeine. So it's good to study more about this because it could be, and this is why we've got the sleep journal, because, you know, if we pick away at it, it might be that we might have to get into so much detail as to find out exactly what drinks are you drinking and when you're drinking them, and what food exactly you're eating every day, to analyze if there's something in the food or the combination of the food and the drink that's actually causing, that could be causing a block, a sleeping block. This is interesting too, that as you get older, the amount of sleep that you need decreases, okay? So you can see from this that there's no perfect 8 hours as what the advertisers like to write on the TV. It's not the perfect 8 hours. Everyone has got a certain amount of hours that would be ideal for them, and that sort of starts to decreases as you get older. An obvious one is to cut out disturbing noises. As you can see from this lady, she probably needs earmuffs, I guess. Or it could be that the man is snoring, and if you are snoring, then it might be good to check out the chapter about sleep apnea in the book. There's a checklist, and for example, if you get sleepy during the day, or you're losing a little bit of your memory from time to time, it could be that you have actually got sleep apnea. And if you do, it's quite important and urgent that you get checked out. And what they found is that for most people, a CPAP machine, which forces, it's something that you wear at night to force the air to go through your lungs, is very important, because with apnea, if you stop, my dad had apnea, we never knew. And I only found out later because I've got sleep apnea myself. And what happened with him was that he'd be watching TV and he'd be snoring, and then every so often he'd stop snoring, and then there'd be an eruption, like he'd go, then he'd stop, and then all of a sudden it's like that, sort of like an eruption, and then he'd start snoring again. But that little gap is very dangerous, because that is when there is no breathing going on. There is a slight deprivation of oxygen to the brain. Okay, And over time, that can actually lead to serious problems like heart disease and it could even lead to stroke and diabetes and all sorts of other quite serious diseases when you're starting to deprive the brain of a little bit of oxygen every night. So the snoring thing is important to look at. If you don't have a partner that can hear if you are snoring or not, then maybe put a tape recorder on or get your telephone to do a recording and see whether, and then listen back to see if you are actually snoring. Because if you are, I'd recommend everyone to go to their doctor, say that you're snoring and say that you're wondering if you need a sleep test. Okay. Obviously, all sorts of noises can disturb you, and sometimes it might mean putting on a tape recorder, not an old-fashioned word as a tape recorder, but a voice recorder on your telephone, because, and then play it back, because you might be so used to your environment that you don't hear certain sounds that are actually disturbing you on a subconscious level. Okay, but those sounds could be what is stopping you from getting into Delta. That could be one of your blocks. We talked about listening to your doctor. We'll move on to sleep in a darkened room. Avoid purple lights or violet lights or blue lights. Avoid the screens because they're higher frequencies. And light has an important effect on brainwaves. So to make the room as dark as possible, even wear those night shades over your eyes to block out as much light as you can actually help increase the quality of your Delta brainwave sleep. Having a warm bath is also a very good idea if you can. Shower, a warm shower is better than nothing, but a warm bath can be very good for you if you are able to do that and if you've got the time. Yes, and we put a promotion in about calming alpha music, of course. It doesn't have to be alpha music. It can be any music that you find that is restful. We'll go into more about how to choose the music later on in the course. To explain a little bit about alpha music, the aim of the music is to slow the brainwaves down. My first album, which is the one I'm playing you now, we had to test it on people. And I was living in Poland at the time, and everyone thought I was after divorce, and everyone thought I was a little bit depressed. So I had a feeling that everyone wanted to be nice to me by saying, "Oh, it's very nice music," because I think they didn't want me to do any self-harm. So, but I had before doing a degree in music and composition, I studied electrical engineering for 2.5 years. So I've got a bit of a scientific brain as well as a music brain. And so I started to feel that maybe the people were just being nice to me and that the music wasn't very good or wasn't very effective. So I was at a problem stage in my life, not knowing what I should be doing in my life. And I basically put my hands up and prayed to God, asking to get a sign whether this music actually does work or it doesn't. So the next day, I was told that 3 little budgies in daylight fell asleep listening to Silence of the Beast. And this was the answer to my question, because they never fall asleep in the day unless you put a blanket over the cage and turn off the lights. When you turn off the lights and they feel that it's starting to get dark, then they might calm down, they might start to get drowsy, but they won't fall asleep until it's dark. So for them to actually fall asleep whilst listening to this music during the day gave me the proof that the actual music did work. And we followed it up with studies, which we'll go into. We all know that music can stir up memories and is very powerful. It can affect our moods. So it's a matter of how to choose music that will not open up memories and and associations that will keep you awake. Rather than so, and this is, I put together a set of my own musical principles upon which I composed the music. So even though I channeled it, I guess it was with a structure in mind, like tuning in a channel on a radio frequency. You've got to tune in very selectively as to what I wanted to download, and I had a whole lot of criteria that I wanted the music to be such that you could play it a lot without feeling bored listening to it, and I wanted the music not to be easily associated with other types of music or other types of experiences, so that it could be just used for the purpose that it was meant for, and the purpose that you're using it for. So a lot of people say, well, does the music really work? Is it scientifically proven, etc.? So we've done a few university tests. One was with 200 dental patients, 100 with and without the music. And they found the people with the high stress levels had the greatest level of relaxation, and the medium had the medium amount, but the people at the bottom that were totally relaxed anyway, the alpha music didn't have any effect on them because they were totally relaxed. It's the same as me saying, you don't have a headache? Okay, so take a headache tablet, and after you take the headache tablet, I ask you, do you have a headache? And the answer is obviously you don't have a headache because you didn't have one at the beginning. So it was a good test, and the paper was actually a research paper that was published. We've also measured brainwaves on the music, and we've found within 4 minutes with this particular patient that his brainwaves went into an alpha state. And the person that actually helped was our first guinea pig, was a doctor that was a chain-smoking, hyperactive doctor. So you could never finish one sentence before he'd lose his concentration on what you're saying. He'd be looking around the place, but he wouldn't be actually focused in on what you're saying, because after 2 words, that was enough for him. Every 4 minutes, within 4 minutes, his brainwaves kept on going to alpha. And the interesting thing is that after we did the tests on him, when I had a conversation with him, I could have a conversation with him. He actually listened to what I was saying, and I was listening to him. We actually communicated, which was quite an achievement, because before we could never have that. So the music actually worked for him, and we measured the brainwaves, and I think some of the brainwaves have been published inside the book and are on our website. We also measured in a classroom of disruptive teenager boys. When the chap got the album, Silence of Peace Volume 1, and said that he's going to test it with his girlfriend, who's got a class, and when he said they were disruptive teenager boys, I thought, I will never see him again, because I didn't think the music would work on disruptive teenager boys, because they like heavy rock music. They don't like anything that's on the relaxation style. But despite whether they liked it or not, we had a massive improvement in their study. They spoke less. They were less impulsive. They were less hyperactivity, and there was a huge reduction in off-task activities, which means that there were video cameras in the classroom, and they found that they were they were doing less things that they shouldn't be doing in the classroom, which is called off-task activities. Patrick Holford uses and the music himself. I remember I gave an album to him when I met him in London years ago, and I asked him if he could play it and tell me what he thought of it. And then I went to Australia for a while, and then when I came back, I totally forgot about it. And then his assistant was trying to find me and chase me up because they wanted the albums, because they wanted to recommend them and distribute them to his own clients. And he started writing about me and Alpha Music in his books. And I think he's probably written about me and Alpha Music in maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of his books already, which is really good. And he's only recommending it because he uses it himself, which is great. It's great news. This is Dr. Fahey. He's from the Republic of Ireland, and thanks to his recommendation and his story, the Sunday Telegraph picked it up in this country, and the Independent Irish newspaper picked it up in the Republic of Ireland, where he talks about recommending my music over Prozac. And he would rather, well, thanks to him not working for the NHS, he can speak his mind, I guess. He would rather have his patient use natural ways to induce sleep than to take sleeping tablets. You can read more about that in the book and on the website. Again, more opinions from Dr. Nader Malik, who's a dentist, and he uses it with his patients.
John?
Yes.
It's Nuala.
Hi, Nuala.
Hi. Just when you were talking about the silence of peace, I had it many years ago. It was introduced to it early 2000s, and my nephew had very, very severe ADHD, and he was only like 2 at the time, and it was unbelievable what it would, how it would work for him. And even at such a young age, he'd say, "I need my CD."
Well, that's lovely to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even though I composed this album in 1984, so I haven't counted lately how many years old that the album is. I guess we'll talk more about it in terms of composer's intention, because it's something that most people don't think about when they're listening to music or when they're watching artwork. But it's something that I'd like you to be aware of, is that the art, music, color, pattern, design have got a lot of influence over your being. And it's really lovely to hear stories about a little child that got some relief with the music. It's wonderful. So we talk about insomnia and can't sleep. So we talk about which albums to use. We spoke about this. The Orange Grove Siesta album, we find that most people that can't get to sleep because they've got a busy mind are mostly women, believe it or not. Most men do not have a busy mind, and they prefer a different type of album. So somehow the music on the Orange Grove seems to connect with the busy mind, like the two things seem to connect in a way that can allow your mind to focus in on the music. And the way it's composed, if this music was to be reviewed by a traditional relaxation music reviewer, they would probably rubbish this album, especially if the reviewer was a man, because from a man's point of view, the logic of this album does not make any sense at all. it breaks a lot of the relaxation music rules. Okay, it's chaotic. It's hard to work out any patterns. It's not easy to anticipate. The melodies don't seem to go anywhere. There are clashes in the music. I believe that the music needs to have black and white. It has to be clean and it has to be dirty. There has to be a mixture of tapestries that keeps the mind interested in listening to it. Because if you're not interested in listening to it, it's boring. If it's boring, you turn it off, and then the music can't help you at all. So it has to have some intrigue and some it has to tantalize you in some way, whilst having to slow the brainwaves down in another dimension. So the human being is quite a complex character, and our minds are incredibly complex. So I don't believe that just a musician putting their finger on a synthesizer note for for the whole album is going to work. There's got to be different things that are happening within the music. So it can also help with different other areas like chronic fatigue syndrome, and it was very popular with body and energy therapies. We had a lady that was a Reiki practitioner. She said, "Oh, I can save money because this is perfect for Reiki, and I've got a problem with sleeping." And I said, if you want to be thinking about your work whilst you're trying to sleep, and if you want to sleep whilst you're working, then use the orange grove for both. But what you're doing is building up an association which is confusing your mind. It's far better to use this album just for one purpose only. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the only album in the whole of the range that can help people that have got a busy mind to fall asleep. And I would say that getting a good quality sleep is more important than your work. You know, if you can use different albums in my range for your work, but look after yourself first by getting a decent night's sleep and keep this album just for your sleep. But this is just my opinion. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. We spoke about Cynthia before. I think we spoke about her yesterday, that she couldn't sleep for 22 years without sleeping tablets. She told me when I spoke to her on the phone that I was better than Beethoven, and having studied music composition and Beethoven at the university, I said, "Thank you very much for the compliments, but I can't take it. I can't take that compliment. He's an absolute genius. I don't think I could ever compose music as brilliant as Beethoven." And she said, "Well, Beethoven never got me to sleep, and yours did, so you're better than Beethoven." I thought that was fair enough. But I love Beethoven's music, but I would never use Beethoven or Mozart's music to fall asleep by. It's music that I enjoy listening to, but I wouldn't use it for falling asleep. And more testimonials of people that have decided that they can get off their sleeping tablets. Now, it's important that I say this because it's obviously being recorded, that I am not a doctor, I am not prescribing you anything, and I'm not telling you or advising you to change your medication. It's very important to know that I am not telling you to change any of your medication or suggesting that you do that. It's far better, and the only way to do it is to go and see your own doctor, not your friend that is a doctor, but your own doctor that you're registered to, and talk to him. That say, if you want to get off the sleeping tablets, say to the doctor, "I want to get off my sleeping tablets. Can you recommend me a program? Or, I've got some music. In other words, they should tell you what to do and how to do it. Years ago, I was depressed, and I was prescribed antidepressants when I was going through this time. Unfortunately, the doctor never told me what would happen if I came off the medication. And just through me not, I don't know why I did this. I counted, I was going on a little holiday from Sydney to Byron Bay with my family. And a packet of tablets is just so small, but for some reason I decided, well, I have to save space, so I'll just count the amount of tablets I need and just take them in a little pill box rather than taking a box. And it's such a stupid idea, but I did it. And I miscounted the amount of tablets. So after about 2 days off the medication, I couldn't walk. My mother and my sister had to hold both of my arms, hold my arms and actually help me onto the airplane to get back to Sydney, but I never knew how serious it was to get off medication. So why I'm saying to you is, do not decide to get off any medication by yourself without consulting your medical, consulting your doctor, because it can be quite serious. But we have had examples where people have not had to take sleeping tablets, which is wonderful for them. Now, we move on to the Amber album. Mostly men like this album. It's got a totally different style of composition about it, and can work for most men. If a man doesn't like this album, it could be that he has a busy mind and he might prefer the Orange Grove. And it's the same for a woman. If a woman doesn't like the Orange Grove, there's a good chance that she would like the Amber album. So it's usually a yin or yang situation. We've got more people that are saying wonderful things about the album and how it's changed their life, which is lovely to hear. For babies, we've got My Little Seashell, and it's based on the lullabies, but composed and arranged in an alpha music way. Amanda Gordon, who was the president of the Australian Psychological Society for a while, she used and recommended my music as well. So it's nice to know that we had psychologists as well as hypnotherapists use the same album, even though they would never want to be in the same room as each other. They could use the same album and get good results, which is great. More good stories, but I think you can read about them more in the book and on the website. This lady was an extreme example where Laura used the music for night terrors with her child that woke up many times a night screaming. So it helped her, and we were featured in the Mail Online, and I think they've still got that online as well, that you can get to see that story. That's a photograph of the two of them. So the target, as we talked about before, is Delta. And be kind to yourself, because obviously, just think of it as we'd all like to instantly flick the switch and get into Delta immediately, but it takes practice. So before we can speed sleep, as I call it, we need to learn to drive. And before we need to learn to drive, we need to ride a little cycle. So be kind to yourself, and let's just take it in stages. So we're going to have a break shortly. My suggestion is, has everyone done their homework last night and chosen a YouTube track that is the most sleepy? Can you just put your hands up and say whether you've chosen anything? Brett Mueller has. That's great. Okay, so what we'll do is, after the break, we'll have a 5-minute break. I will turn off the background music from my other laptop, and I will just speak. But whilst I'm speaking, I'd like you to select. I don't know why. Sorry, that came on. I would like you to play your sleep YouTube track as background. Is that is that possible? Can you do that? Is everyone okay with that? Yeah, just put your hand up if you're okay with that. Good. Okay, so right, so you're okay. You've got your things. So let's have a break time now. We've just gone over a little bit, so let's reconvene in 5 minutes. That's 11:20. Okay. Okay. Be well. Hello, everyone. Just wave if you can hear me. I want to make sure the microphone's working. Right, Brett, can you hear me? Vera can hear me. That's great. Okay, so what we need to, if you can, if it's possible, if you choose your YouTube track to play, just so that we know which one you're playing, would you be able to share on the chat? Just write the first 4 words of what the YouTube title is, so that we can get an idea which track you're listening to. We just need the first 4 words, and that should identify with us for us to know which album you're listening to. If you can do that, that'd be great. Just type it on the chat. So I'll just write here. Okay. All right. So David has written how to fall asleep fast. Thank you very much, David, for that. And Vero wrote down music for sleep. Vero, would you be able to give us the 4th word as well? Because I think there's a couple of YouTubes that we start with music for sleep. If Nola's got a moment to type down what she has chosen, that'd be great. Okay, so now what we'll do is I've turned off the background music on my Chromebook, because what I'd like you to do is start switching on your music, and I will talk over the top of that, if that's okay. Right, so for the next half an hour or so, we can do a little practice exercise. So you choose what you want to do. You can either choose to lie down on a bed in a comfortable position, or you can choose to sit in a comfortable chair. So if you want to go off and do that now. Hello, Brett. Brett is back with us. Brett, if you didn't get to hear, choose an album from the YouTube range. If you need, Meg has actually just put the link so that you can go to that link and choose an album from the range, because I'll be talking without any music as background on my side, and what I'm saying to everyone is you choose your own background music, and I'll talk over the top of the music that you choose. Brett's giving his thumbs up sign, which is great, and Lola looks like she's getting herself organized as well. So if you're lying down, then get into a comfortable position. Make sure that your head is rested in the right place. Make sure that your body is in alignment, as opposed to, so that you're uncrossed your arms and uncrossed your legs. Make sure that your clothing is loose, so there's nothing tight or restricting you. Look after the temperature that you've in the room. If you get into a deep delta state, or as your brainwaves start to slow down, then your temperature in the body can also reduce. So it's important to have some sort of blanket or covering to keep yourself warm. You need to feel comfortable when you're doing the exercise or when you're sleeping or meditating. So today, let's just start concentrating on focusing in on our breathing. So we breathe in through our nose, hold, and then let go through our mouth. Breathe out through our mouth. And make a nice, slow, even cycle of breathing in through our nose, holding, and releasing through our mouth. Hold. Breathe that through your mouth. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe that through your mouth. And as we slow down our breathing, we cast our ears, we listen with our ears to the music. And our aim is to focus in on the music. Now what will happen, it can easily happen, from time to time, we are going to have a thought. When you have a thought, be kind to yourself. There's nothing wrong. You don't have to chastise yourself. Just observe it like you're a scientist and think, oh, that's interesting, I've got a thought. And once you recognize you've got a thought, go, I think I'll put my mind onto the music again. I let go of the thought and focus in on the music. If you'd like to, you're more than welcome to hum along to the music. Because humming is very similar to chanting or saying the mantra. It could be an om sound. You might like to make a hum to whatever note you hear in the music. And hum through the breath for one breath. And then at the end of the breath, choose the same note if you feel good about that. Or choose another note that you feel good about. There are no rules in terms of what you can choose, what note you can choose. You choose whatever note you like. The most important thing is to hum one note for one breath. So find a note in music and just breathe in and hum for one breath. And then find another note and hum for a breath. Now, if you forget to hum, that's perfect. It's wonderful. And when you remember again, you can cast your mind back onto the music and hum again. Now, whenever you get a thought in your mind, follow the same routine. I've got a thought. That's interesting. Let me focus back on the music. Focus in on any part of the music you like. It could be a tinkle, it could be a bell, it could be a voice, it could be guitar or piano, whatever instrument you want to focus in on. Just feel happy about whatever you do and choose whatever you want. Now I'm going to stop talking and let you just focus in on the music. And I'll come back in about 10 minutes. Hello, everybody. If you'd like to gradually wake up, start breathing, focusing in on the breathing, and gradually opening your eyes. And just if you want, turn on the video just so that you can wave to me to say that you're awake, or if you want to write something in the chat just to say you're back on the planet. We're good. I could see Norma smiling. I actually had I lay down myself and listened to Silence of Peace for 10 minutes to help me, which is good. Obviously, I'd like it a little bit longer, but I can always do that after the course.
Unfortunately, I got a fit of coughing in the middle of it. But anyway, it was grand. Enjoyed it.
But that's another block, so we have to work on the coughing. Maybe some tea with some honey might help you with it. Hello, Brett, you're back. Hi, Brett. And Vera's back. Hello, Vera. Right, so, oh, that was a slide I was supposed to put on. Meg's going to get angry with me now because she spent a lot of time making this beautiful slide with the video. But we can use this again tomorrow, I think. It's saying resources may affect audio quality, okay. So I think everyone has subscribed, so we thank you for doing that. It helps support us. So let's, for anyone that would like to share, let's tell me what you thought of your experience. I'm happy to hear the positives and also happy to hear the negatives as well. So, would anyone like to share?
I don't mind starting. Thank you. Again, I think I mentioned earlier that I had used a couple of the sunshine ones last night, and the one I was using, the busy one, when I listened to that first, and while it seemed to me it was like Aboriginal sound, you know, and it kind of put me off a bit, so I moved away from it quite quickly. And then in the end, that was the one that worked for me. So, because I went to the other one to help you sleep, the other two on that sunshine.
Yes.
But I ended up going back to the busy one.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that happens because some part of our mind is saying it's irritating, and another part of our body is actually it's helping. So it's you know, there's certain things that are happening in our mind when it comes to helping us sleep as well, and a lot of it has to do with our mind. So it's good to notice these things and to write little journal entries as well. I think I said yesterday, a lot of people, you know, it's very easy to chastise yourself when you do something wrong. I guess it's part of the education system, or the old education system. When you do something wrong, oh dear, feel guilty. But what we need to concentrate on is what we do right, and how did we make it success? How did we get the success? What actually did work for us? And we journalize that, write down what actually worked, so that we remember what worked and build on our success. Even though there might be little things that work, let's build on it. So let's write it down. Let's say, okay, if it works, let's use that as part of the method or the technique to get to Delta. Thank you for that. Anyone else that would like to share? Brett? Yes, you're welcome.
Well, John, I want to thank you very much for the lead-in guidance and tips, like where there was a thought to notice it and to let it go, reminded me of meditation training that I'd had as well. And that helped. And I noticed twice I did a forward head drop, and where I was dropping off, and at the end I got a bit of a surprise because on my system your the sound of your voice I'd set loud, and so when you welcomed us back, it was a bit like an alarm for me.
I do.
But that was my setting, not yours.
Well, I'll try and start talking a little bit lighter and smoother next time, so that because the last thing we want is any shock to wake you up. It's got to be a very gradual, smooth transition. You know.
Well, you could use some gongs or something like that to introduce it before you say hello.
That's a good idea. I'll see if I've got any in the house. That's
Thank
very
you,
good.
John.
Yeah. Okay. And how did it work for you with the thoughts and moving back into the music? Did that work for you?
It did. It worked well, and it was lovely to have the music in the background and just letting the thoughts go, and then re-engaging with the music. It worked nicely. It seemed to take me quite deep, quite quickly.
I think you're going to be one of my star graduates, because what you're saying is like textbook. It's fantastic because it means that you are getting your gold stars already. You're on the road to Delta. And the nodding off is also a good sign that you've probably gone into a Delta state, even if it's just for a fraction of a second. It's working. So it's great, because even if you reach this for a second and you recognize that you reached it, then it's a matter of just practicing the same techniques all the time, and using and at best use the same piece of music. You've shared with us which one that you were using, Brett, did you?
Yes, I was using the last one listed, which was listed as 1 hour of music for meditation, and it was the last one that was on the list.
Okay.
And it's 1 hour of relaxing music, instrumental music, phobias, calming music.
Right.
That's how it was listed.
Okay, well, we'll identify that later, but it seems like you found the right track. So what I would be saying to everybody is, with the homework, is if the track or the YouTube that you chose works, then just use that track. If it's working for you, that's great. So, Brett, you're doing great. Just do more of it, and just keep working on it. It's like, think of it like a Renaissance artist, that you're gradually improving your art, your technique, your skill every day. Just hone at it, a little improvement here, a little improvement there, with the aim to join up these little bits of delta into longer bits of delta. And the more delta you can get, the more rejuvenated you're going to feel, and the better you're going to feel. The more refreshed you're going to feel, and the healthier you'll be. So you're on the right track there. Thank you very much, Brett, for sharing. Anyone else would like to share?
Thank you, John. That's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah, Vera? Do I have to unmute you, or can you unmute yourself? I hit the ask to unmute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I use the same device for both your voice and the music, and so I couldn't hear you at all, and so I got bothered, and I couldn't lower the sound on one and not on the other one, so I didn't hear what you said, and it kind of put me off track, and so it took me a longer time just to get into the music.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess Noella said that she used two different devices, and maybe that's what I should do too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a block. It's a block. We have to think of all the blocks. I guess. Do you have a laptop and a smartphone?
Yeah, I should. So I use my laptop for both, but yes, next time I'll use my smartphone too.
Yeah. Maybe Meg can chat with you or email you some ideas. But if you can maybe practice beforehand, try maybe have the smartphone for the music, maybe,
Yes.
and then keep the laptop for the Zoom program and my voice, maybe.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Try that.
Yeah, but then I found the music surprising, because every time I felt a bit more soothed and calm, the music would pick up and kind of jolt me back. And so I was just wondering how you could get to sleep on that.
Well, did you share with us the track that you used?
Yes, it was music for sleep for busy mind.
Okay. So then I will work on that with Meg after the program, and then maybe we will see if we can find a similar track to that that maybe doesn't disturb you as much.
Okay.
But it's good to share exactly what you've said, because it could be just a different track to select. Nuala, did you want to share something?
Yes, Vera, I don't know if you heard me saying, that was the track that I went back to last night. I started on music for sleep, and then I went to how to fall asleep in 4 minutes. But I found I went back to the music for sleep busy mind. And I know what you mean, because there's kind of it kind of mellows, and then there's another sound comes in. And I found myself almost keeping an ear out for the little tinkle, the little bell, you know. It would come in every now and again. And I was gone. I did fall asleep, so that's personal experience.
Okay, maybe I should keep on for a bit longer, maybe.
Persevere, yeah.
Try it again. But I will also do a little bit of homework with Meg to see if there could be an alternative track that you could try as well. Yeah, well, that's good. So thank you for sharing. And so we spoke about how we can reduce the blocks, and we're progressing very well on that. So the homework is to have a good night's sleep tonight, to go through the checklist of the I guess everyone has got the book. Yeah, has everyone received it? Because just flick through that and just go through the checklist just to make sure the obvious things you're doing, to clear away the obvious blocks, like for Vera, look at maybe the temperature thing is important. So maybe just concentrate on this major block about the temperature tonight. See if you can sleep in a cooler environment. Nuala, would you like to say something?
Just quickly, I haven't ordered the book yet, but I'm going to do it this afternoon. Do you post to Ireland? Or will I talk to Meg later? I can email Meg later.
Organise things. I think the electronic book is the one that we can send you instantly. But Meg,
I have a preference for proper books.
Oh, you like the paper? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I do. I like the paper.
I think you're in touch with Meg on
Yes,
on email
chat.
as well, in chat.
Yes, she sent me
So
her chat.
we'll leave the chat. We'll Meg can start chatting to you now.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Meg's writing to me. Yeah, you can go to Amazon to get a paper copy of the book on Amazon. Just look under John Levine, Why Can't I Sleep, and look for the book. And Amazon can print a book for you and post it to you.
And is there a code then for, there's a special offer, I understand, at the moment? I'm going to order a few copies, maybe to pass on to friends as well.
I think Amazon has made a discount on our book already. If Meg can send me what the two prices were. Or
John, I don't want to take up the time of the whole group, so I can talk.
Okay. Yeah, and Meg's also writing that you can get the Orange Grove Siesta album as a download from our website, and that could do the trick as well.
Yeah, I had the CD and I lent it to my aunt, and she's misplaced it. So
no.
I know.
Oh well, that's probably the album.
Yeah.
But you can get e copies of it now.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So basically, it's honing down on the skills, improving the skills every day, every night, and isolating the blocks. So maybe, for example, Vera might get the temperature right, and then we might discover another block. So let's talk about another block tomorrow and see if we can work through the blocks and get as many as we can cleared. So by the end of the program, you know how to do your speed sleeping into Delta. So it's 12:02 now. So if anyone's got any questions before we finish today's session, Brett has got a question. Yeah, please go ahead and ask.
Quick question, John. Amazon don't have a copy of your Amber LP. Do you know where I could get one?
I think we stopped selling the CDs.
Yes.
And we are distributing on our website the download copies.
Excellent. I'll get that because MP3 is all I'm looking for. So that will be fine. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you come to our website, we've got all the electronic versions available where you can
Thank you, John.
Get them fairly immediately, and that'll be good for you. Any other questions? No? Okay. So I'm looking forward to hearing good reports tomorrow. But if there are any things that are blocking your sleep, then I look forward to hearing about those so that we can work through those tomorrow as well. So until then, Meg, have you got any things that you want to add or that I forgot to say that I should say?
No, that's all.
Okay. All right. Well, so then have a good rest of the day, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Okay. Be well.